What's going on, Colts Nation? I appreciate you joining me for another video. My apologies for not having a video yesterday, but today I want to get back with you guys, kind of just talking Colts. There isn't really, I mean, there are a couple things we're going to mention here, but today's just one of those days, and we're at that point in the off season where it's really just touching base with you guys and want to bring up different conversation, some things that have happened that you probably know about, like guys that have visited with the Colts, and that's Xavier Worthy having a top 30 visit with the Colts, and also Malik Neighbors had a visit with the Colts. So here recently, the Colts being active in the wide receiver. Now, there are other visits that they have scheduled, other visits that they have that just haven't been publicized, right? Because they're not, wide receivers. Wide receiver is a flashy position. That's why we're hearing about that. It's kind of why, a lot of talk was around the wide receivers in free agency again, because that's just a flashy position. Everybody wants the good receivers, right? You have the good receivers, makes things a lot easier for the quarterback, which makes things better for the entire team. So, even though wide receiver is what's being talked about, the Colts have had a lot of visits. They have more visits scheduled. But I think it is interesting. They're looking at Malik Neighbors, and there's slim chance that the Colts are able to get Malik Neighbors. They'd have to move up quite a bit to go get Malik Neighbors. So that there was probably more of a formality in just seeing if, hey, let's meet this guy, let's see what he's about, to see, is a trade like that worth it? Is a move like that even ever going to be worth it? And trying to figure out, is this a guy we could have in our locker room and lose those assets in the future for? So that's going to be a decision that they're going to make. Likely, probably not going to happen because Ballard and his people, right? And again, like if you're trading from 15 to 5, I don't know as a Colts fan if I would want us to do that. So, I think the better option and the more likely option, I think we can all agree, is trading back for a guy like Cooper DeJean or a guy like Xavier Worthy. And I think Xavier Worthy is interesting because Roma Dunze also met with the Colts during combine time. So they already had that meeting. They know what he's about, and they were able to see what he could do on the field there at the combine. So there is a chance that the Colts end up moving up from, 15 to 8 or 15 to 9 to try to go get Rome Odunze. That's entirely possible. The Bears looking to trade out, from all the reports that I continue to see, is like Bears really don't want to keep the number 9 pick. They want to try to gain more assets, which is what we kind of talked about before, why it makes sense to trade up to 9, because Ryan Poles, the way he operates there with Chicago, he's trying to build this thing through the draft, especially with a quarterback that's going to be on a rookie contract. He wants to continue to stockpile draft picks like he has every year since he's been there with the Bears. So, I expect that to be what he tries to do. It makes sense for the Colts. If Roma Dunze is still available at 9, there's definitely a chance that the Colts go up. But Xavier Worthy is interesting because not only are the Colts doing a top 30 visit, but they met with him at the combine and had a formal interview with him at the combine. So this seems like something where, maybe the Colts are seriously considering trading back into that first round and taking him. And they already met him and know what he's about. They already, got to what they want to talk to him about, but they were able to both spend more time with him and go ahead, show him around the facilities a little bit, right? Give young man a tour of the facilities. Xavier Worthy just seems like he could definitely be that guy, especially if the Colts want to trade back a couple spots. There are a lot of people talking about, Xavier Worthy, if he makes it all the way to the end of the first round, he'll get picked by the Chiefs, but he's got to make it there. What if somebody wants to trade, an early second round pick and get up into the first round? Then the Colts, if the Colts play around too much and go back too much in the draft, they could lose out on him. What if Cooper Jean has been drafted by then? What if all the guys we've talked about have been drafted by then in the first round? Then you're looking at, trading back more, and you don't get any premier talent through this draft, and you're just trying to find diamonds in the rough from 2 to 7. So that's an avenue we don't want to go, right? That's why staying at 15 makes sense, right? Go after one of the premier guys in this draft. At 15, you can still get a premier guy. So we'll see what the Colts decide to do from that regard. But I just thought this was all interesting. The more I looked into, who the Colts have had visits with and how it's all worked out, I think Xavier Worthy is somebody that is going to be in serious contention to be drafted by the Colts in a couple of weeks. But then the other thing that I wanted to bring up was just Andrew Luck being back in Indianapolis. Chuck Pagano, he had his Chuck Strong event in Indianapolis. I believe it's been 12 years. They've now raised over $14 million. And this one, Andrew Luck came back to town. He was hanging out, having a good time with everybody. And of course, with him being around and with press going to be at the event, of course, with all the notable names there for the Colts, then they ended up asking Andrew Luck some questions. He was nice enough to answer some questions, sit down and answer some questions. And, he had talked about how coming out of retirement has never even been something that he really thought about. And I feel like with the way he went out, that's not really much of a surprise, right? It felt like he was just ready to be done with it, doesn't want to go through the injury process and rehab again. Completely understandable, right? So him being out of it, it just makes sense. But it has raised the question, like, would Andrew Luck ever maybe want to be a coach? Maybe yes, he doesn't want to play, but would he ever entertain being a coach? And would the Colts be a team that could give him a start in his coaching career, right? You think about some of the guys that the Colts have had as coaches, right? Mike Mitchell, former DB with the Colts. Also, Cato June, former linebacker with the Colts. Reggie Wayne, of course, one of the best receivers of all time with the Colts. And of course, there are probably other names in there that I'm not thinking of right now, but you get the point. Like they have guys that come back. There are coaches that have come back to coach for the Colts. I've seen different roles, some in the same roles as before, but Indiana seems to be, or Indianapolis, the Colts seem to be one of those spots. Like when we talk family oriented, they really are like that. And guys leave for business purposes, whatever, but guys like to come back. And I think Andrew Luck would be great as a coach. There are people talking about quarterbacks coach and this and that. I think Shane Steichen has put together a good collection of coaches. So whatever he thinks, but I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, let's fire our quarterbacks coach and bring in Andrew Luck. But put Andrew Luck on the staff, get him around Anthony Richardson, right? I mean, just having 12 on the sideline again, I mean, it would be huge for the team. It'd be huge for fans. That would be amazing to see. So it'd be interesting to see if that ever happens. I'm not sitting here saying that that's something that was discussed or that's something that might be on the horizon. I'm just saying, maybe it's something to watch out for. Never would have thought Reggie Wayne would come and end up being the wide receivers coach, but here we are. And he's sticking around and he's trying to get better every single year. Maybe Andrew Luck can do the same, come in, be, assistant quarterbacks coach and go from there. But having him back in the building would be great. It was nice to hear him talking about, you know, feeling the love and knowing that it's all love. It didn't end great. He didn't have the career he wanted in Indy, and they weren't able to accomplish things that they all wanted to. But he reminisced on his time in Indy, and has some semblance of being able to see it fondly, even after being booed off the field. So we've come a long way from that point. It's nice to see Andrew Luck happy. Nice to see him smiling again and being Andrew Luck. Sounds like Andrew Luck. He looks happy and healthy. So that's great news. You know what I mean? But before we get out of here, just make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. We're going to be talking more about the draft tomorrow and in the coming days as we continue to get closer to April 25th, the night of round one. So again, make sure you have those notifications turned on so you get notified when any of these videos come out. Of course, I appreciate you stopping by for another video. As always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and go Colts.